Today we're going to talk about making bread in a Bosch mixer with fresh ground flour without a recipe. And it's really simple. The Bosch does most of the work. In a Bosch mixer, the size of batch you're making, and the reason you don't need a recipe is because everything is controlled by the water. We're going to start with 6 cups of very warm water, and we're just going to pour that right into the bowl. 6 cups is going to give us approximately 10 to 12 pounds of dough. One of the things you're going to realize about the Bosch is that you don't have to measure your flour. So I'm going to cover the water with fresh flour. To that, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of yeast in. We're going to pour 2/3 cup oil, and then we're going to also add 2/3 cup honey. I dump it on top of the yeast because it's the sweetener in bread that helps activate the yeast. We're going to use the momentary switch, and we're just going to stir that around the bowl. What we're doing now is making sure that the yeast has a chance to work its way through all of the dough. Once you get that done, again, without measuring the flour, we're just going to cover that wet dough mixture. Now I'm going to put the splash ring on. A couple of tablespoons of salt. Salt is for taste. You'll have very bland bread if you don't use salt. We're going to stir that again, and then we're going to turn it on speed number 1. Now once it gets more flour, I move to speed 2. And I'm just adding flour until I get a ball of dough formed on 2/3 of the bowl, and the bowl starts coming clean. Once that bowl starts coming clean, you can quit adding flour. We're just going to finish kneading that for 6 to 8 minutes. There's really 5 things you need to follow without a recipe. First, start with hot water, not so hot that it would burn your finger. Second, fresh flour. If you mill your own flour, you're going to get more nutrition. You're going to get all 26 vitamins and minerals that are contained in a wheat kernel. And so fresh flour gives you a better taste, it gives you a heartier flavor, and it's much healthier for you and your family. Never measure your flour. The Bosch will tell you when you have enough flour. Add your salt last, because salt acts as a mild retardant to yeast. So if you add it after the yeast has had a chance to activate a little bit, then you get a lighter, fluffier, faster rising loaf of bread. And the last thing is oil. Never add flour after your ball of dough is finished. If you add flour to this, that never gets any development for the gluten fibers to rise. And so you have every place dry flour would touch this bread now will form a dry, crumbly crust in that part of the dough. With a little bit of oil on our hands, this dough hook comes out, and we can just clean the dough off of the dough hook very easily. And then you just want to work that dough just a little bit. We're going to use a standard size cast iron bread pan today. You're going to want to fill it a little more than halfway up. I'm going to use the method that a German baker taught me one time for forming the dough and putting it in the bread pan. Form a little mushroom cap on your bread, slam it down, and then twist it and turn it like this. I close the seams on the bottom, and then that goes right in the bread pan. You can punch it down, they'll both rise up beautifully in the bread pans and bake beautifully. You'll let this rise double, which is about 30 minutes depending on the temperature in your kitchen. You're going to bake it at about 350 to 375 for about 30 minutes. I do it until the top is golden brown, and this is actually going to be a really tasty, tasty loaf of bread.